The House will come to order. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Mr. Gregorio, please call the roll.
Representatives Amabile, Arndt, Bacon, Baisley, Benavidez, Burnett, Byrd, Bockenfeld, Bradfield, Caraveo, Carver, Catlin, Cutter, Doherty, Duran, Escar, Exum, Froelich, Geithner, Gonzalez Gutierrez, Gray, Representative Gray. Representative Gray is excused. Hanks. Herod. Representative Herod. Representative Herod is excused. Holtorf. Hooten. Jackson.
Here.
Judah. Representative Judah. Kennedy. Kip. Larson. Lontine. Luck. Lynch. McCluskey. McCormick. McKean. McLaughlin.
Present.
Michelson Janae. Mullica. Neville. Ortiz. Pelton. Pico. Ransom. Rich. Ricks. Roberts. Sandridge.
Here.
Sirota. Snyder. Soper. Sullivan. Representative Tipper is excused. Titone. Valdez. Valdez D. Van Beber. Van Winkle. Weissman. Will. Representative Will. Williams. Woodrow. Woog. Young. And Mr. Speaker.
With 63 present, 2 excused, we have a quorum. Representative Hanks.
Mr. Speaker, I move that the Journal of Monday, March 22, 2021 be approved as corrected by the Chief Clerk.
You've heard the motion that the journal be approved as corrected by the Chief Clerk. All those in favor say aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes have it. The motion is adopted. Representative Amabile. Members, please direct your attention to the wall.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Yesterday, my town, my district, my community became the latest victim of a mass shooting. This sad American phenomenon made its way to Boulder, Colorado. 7 days, 7 mass shootings, the 7th day in my town. 10 people lost their lives yesterday, including Eric Talley, Officer Eric Talley, a policeman who ran in to face the fire. I want to read you the names of the other people who died yesterday. And you'll have to forgive me because I just found out that I actually do know one of them. And I don't know if I know how to pronounce all of their names, but Denny Strong, 20 years old. Nevin Stavinsky, 23. Ricky Odds, 25. Chalona Bakanaviak, 49. Suzanne Fountain, 59. Terry Liker, 51. Kevin Mahoney, 61. Lynn Murray, 62, same as me. Jody Waters, 65. I know her from a store on the Pearl Street Mall where I shop, and she's gone now. I am so sad for them and for their families, and also for the employees of King Soopers who put their lives on the line every day during this pandemic, only to have, when the light was at the end of the tunnel, to have this happen. We are going to have another moment of silence at the end of the speakers today. But I don't want to lead that because I don't want to be silent. The victims won't hear our silence. We have to speak with our actions. We have to make it easier to get mental health services than it is to get a gun. We have to address our culture of violence. We have to be loud, not silent. If we want to help our law enforcement agencies, we have to protect them. We can't keep putting them in harm's way. So I urge all of us to think about what can we be doing, what should we do, and how can we come together and do it? Because otherwise, we'll be back here next week having another moment of silence. Thank you.
Representative McCormick.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I apologize, I'm very raw about this. And I think that I'm raw because it just keeps happening and my heart doesn't have time to heal in between. Grocery stores, spas, healthcare clinics, bowling alleys, shopping malls, parties, breweries, naval air stations, football watch parties, high schools, interstates, nightclubs, Walmarts, festivals, workplaces, universities, synagogues, banks, hospitals, yoga studios, newspaper headquarters, Waffle Houses, veterans' homes, churches, music festivals, libraries, baseball games, nursing homes, elementary schools, airports. I have to stop. I could go on. That's just in the last 36 months. Our people, your people, do not feel safe. I need to rephrase that. It's not that we don't feel safe. We're not safe. Feeling safe is an illusion. Being safe is something we can do something about. Yesterday we stood here. We all stood in deep gratitude to the men and women who represented our country at war during the Vietnam War, and my dad was one of those people. We're alive here today. If he were alive here today, he would ask us, why aren't we standing up to defend and protect our own citizens on our own soil? We are failing, members. We need to work to make being safe more of a reality. As it is, we are all losing our ability to have life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, one shooting after another. What are we going to do to protect and defend our citizens right here? We're not doing enough. How much courage is it going to take for us to defend our way of life and our peace here on our American soil?
Representative Burnett.
10 lives were taken from us yesterday. That's 10 empty place settings at the Thanksgiving table. 10 families without the funny sibling, the witty uncle, or the generous daughter. 10 funerals. 10 Coloradans gunned down by the most banal and commonplace settings, the neighborhood grocery store. My friends shop there. I have shopped there. Even in beautiful little Boulder, Colorado, gun violence shatters lives and leaves the rest of us shaken. My heart goes out to the families and friends of the victims of this unspeakable tragedy, including Officer Eric Talley, his wife, and their 7 children. It's hard to believe, hard to understand, and definitely hard to come to terms with. But sadly, yesterday's events are not without precedent. They come as the latest harrowing episode in a history of mass shootings that have torn far, far too many Colorado families apart. Columbine High School, Aurora Theater, Highlands Ranch STEM School, and now Boulder, King Soopers. We remember the names of the places, but as our Representative Sullivan has reminded us in the past, we move on far too quickly and leave the families of the victims to deal with the pain of their loss of their own. Long after the national TV cameras are gone, after the headlines fade, after yesterday's events are relegated to history, this pain will persist in Boulder. I hope this body can honor the victims not only with our silence, our thoughts, and our prayers, but with our action. Unlike other Coloradans who mourn with us today, we have the power and the means to change the status quo.
Representative Sullivan.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Every morning when I get ready to leave the house, I reach in the closet, I grab Alex's jacket, wear that in with me. Because I hope that keeps me grounded, that gives me a calming effect. And I also hope that during the course of my day that someone else, will notice it and they'll see this is what gun violence looks like. This is a survivor and a victim of a mass shooting, and this is what it looks like. Some days, when I know the days are going to be really rough, I wear it on inside because I need his strength. I need to feel him holding me and telling me, Dad, you can get through this. So that's why I'm wearing it today. I know in a while we're going to have a moment of silence. And people say that, sometimes they think that, we've gone kind of numb to this. And I don't think that's true at all. I just think we've gotten good at it. We have a lot of practice. We just practiced a moment of silence last week. We're going to do it again today. When I spend my moment of silence, I can remember where we were, and I know where these 9 and 10 families are at today. I know what those calls were like yesterday. I know exactly what it was like when they had to huddle over at the CU Event Center, because that was our gateway high school. That was Newtown's firehouse. That was where they went. That's where you hoped when you walked in the door that your loved one was there, that you could get a hold of. But there was 9, 10 families that kept walking to the back of the event center looking and not finding anybody. So I think about them during my moment of silence. I hope that they have the strength to get through what is going to be just an incredibly difficult time. All of a sudden, your brother, sister, your mom and dad, all of a sudden their names are going to be read off. Their pictures are going to be in the paper. Someone's going to ask you what they were like. Those people are going to do the same thing that I did this morning. They're going to start looking through their closets and their drawers and looking for something that they can hold on to, because they had no idea that sending somebody to the grocery store was going to end up the way that it did. I just remind all of you that you're affected. You are a victim and a survivor of this crisis that we live in, that continues to affect the people here within the state of Colorado. Please take care of yourself. Reach out to those that you know and trust and care about, because they're the ones who understand you. Be careful of what you hear and what others will say. Trust those that you know, and we'll just keep trying to get through the day. Thank you.
Representative Hooten.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Members, yesterday, my beloved Boulder was traumatized in a way that this has never occurred in our community. We are a peaceful community, outside of shenanigans from CU students sometimes. And I honestly, right? And King Soopers is where those students shop. This is traumatizing, what has happened to us. And I have gone through deep sadness for the victims and their families, which Tom can speak about more eloquently and passionately than anyone else. But you think about those families and the ripple effect it has on our community. And the perpetrator was another kid, you know, a 20-year-old boy, young man from a community outside of Boulder. And we have often felt, especially in the last few years, like it's going to be a matter, not a matter of if, but a matter of when. At some point, this was going to happen in Boulder, and it feels very personal. It feels very personal. And I just want to be in this moment today because there's too much information we don't have, and I don't want to get ahead of myself. I know every single person in this room feels deeply for the Boulder community and that your feelings are sincere, and I appreciate that. You don't even have to reach out to me. But what we need in these times is to reach out to each other, because what happens to Boulder happens to Colorado. I mean, Littleton has gone through this. I mean, so many communities are affected. Look at the aides up in the gallery. They all know Boulder. We all know Boulder. And Boulder is just another Colorado community that has suffered profoundly yesterday and today. And that trauma is going to be with us for a long time. For a long time. But just for today, I want to thank you for standing in solidarity with the Boulder Caucus, with Tom Sullivan, and with each other. Thank you.
Representative Judah.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. On March 15th, the Muslim community mourned the 2-year anniversary of the terror attack killing 50 people in New Zealand. And Colorado flocked to my mosque in Aurora to stand in solidarity, offer their thoughts and prayers. Last week on Sunday, I stood with our AAPI community and mourned their terror attack. And we find ourselves here again, standing with our brothers and sisters from Boulder, mourning their terror attack. The Muslim community is no stranger to terror, to being the victims of terror and gun violence. But there's also a double whammy for me, is that as a member of the Aurora delegation is also no stranger to terror attacks from gun violence. So from the Aurora delegation to my Boulder delegation, from the Muslim community, I want to tell you that we stand in solidarity, but more than offering thoughts and prayers, which I will tell you, sound nice, but do nothing. The Muslim community, the Aurora delegation, offers action. And I can personally say that I will vow to stand in action with you while silently praying for your community.
Representative Larson.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Listening here today, I can only imagine what it was like 22 years ago when my community down in Littleton suffered the Columbine shooting. And I can imagine that's the same pain that representatives from Boulder are feeling today. That was a very impactful moment in my life and everyone in my community that still lives on. I went to the 20-year reunion of the Columbine massacre shortly after getting elected last term. And I can tell you that the pain changes, but it never goes away. And there's just nothing else like it to describe. I just want to let everyone know that the people of Littleton, Colorado are with you today. We've been through it, and it changes your community forever. But our deepest sympathies, and everyone in my community knows what you guys are going through, and we're with you, and we have nothing but empathy and love in our hearts for you. And I'm so sorry that we have to be here today.
Representative Herod.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'll be brief. I just wanted to stand in solidarity with the Boulder delegation as a CU alum, someone who was just there this weekend. Boulder is a place of hope. It's a place of freedom and learning. And it's always felt so safe to me. It's always felt like this, Mecca, you know? And I think that's why so many parents feel so safe and confident sending their kids there. You know, that's the grocery store that I shopped at. I never felt like anything like this could happen. So we'll have longer conversations about what we need to do, about how we want to use our power to act. But that's not what today is about. Today is about standing in solidarity and in alignment that the senseless killings, murders, must end. We might have different solutions in our minds, but I think we hold that in our hearts, all of us. We love you all in Boulder. We love all of the buffs who might be standing here in the gallery or standing with us. We stand in deep solidarity with you, shoulder to shoulder. We'll get through this.
Representative Holtorf.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, esteemed colleagues. This is truly a sad day for Colorado and a sad day for all of us because of the loss we've had. But I want to speak to a different loss that happened in my community. A young boy in my home community, Washington County, a young boy that my daughter Jackie taught as a teacher's assistant last year when she was a senior and he was in 6th grade. A young boy whose spirit was so depressed, who had lost hope in everything and everybody in this world, of this world, decided to take his life early this morning. A young boy that I knew. When I spoke at the Veterans Day program, I saw him. The sadness and the mourning is something that we feel today, and it is so deep. But here's the message that I share with all of us that I think is so important. We need more love in this world. We need more outreach in our communities. We need more respect and understanding for our fellow man and our youth. We as humanity are so misguided. We have lost our respect for ourselves. We've lost respect for the human spirit. We've lost hope in very troubled times. And I sit on the Public Health Committee, and I understand the pleas more than ever for mental health awareness, for reaching out to those that have mental health issues, so we can save the souls that are taken or lost. By a single hand of humanity, we lose so much. And all of that leaves this earth. But where does it start? It starts in our souls, in our spirits. The power of prayer is enormous. I offer that we pray more for ourselves and our communities and humanity more than ever. I offer to us that we reach out to those that are in need with love and a hand that says, "You have help." We have a mental health crisis in this country. We have a mental health crisis in our youth, even in our adult population. But we cannot lose all hope. And we need those people that have these issues to have a place to go to get help. I commend all that we do and all that we say in this chamber. Help me. Help Colorado. Help all of us to rebuild the soul and spirit of humanity in America so we stop the violence against all of us. Stop the violence and let's start loving one another and those that are in the deepest, darkest, disparaging moments in their lives. Somebody with a kind heart and a strong hand reaches out and says, "Come with me. I will take to you a place where there's light and love." Because you're in a dark place and you don't want to be there because bad things happen in dark places. Thank you.
Madam Majority Leader, Askar.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Like many of you, when we heard the news yesterday, we started thinking about who we know that could have been impacted. I instantly texted my Aunt Heidi. My Uncle Mitch is a Boulder police officer. My text message simply was, "Is Mitch okay?" And she said, "He's safe, but he's heartbroken." If we could put Officer Telley's picture up, please. He's heartbroken because he's on his way to Officer Talley's house to stand by with his wife and his 7 kids. He'll be there all night. I tried to leave Mitch alone, let him be with who he needed to be with last night, so I was communicating much with my aunt. Officer Eric Telley was 51. He leaves behind his wife and 7 children, and he served Boulder since 2010. And I just want to share a few words from this morning from my Uncle Mitch directly to you all. I told him we were going to be doing this, and I wanted to be able to honor Eric. From my Uncle Mitch, who was one of Eric's field training officers from the get-go and ended up being one of his very dear friends. These are his words. Eric was such a kind-hearted man who always stood up for the weak and would do anything for anyone. He was genuine, honest, and always concerned. He also lived to play games and introduced us to games that we had never heard of. My aunt told me that when they were all on the swing shift together during their dinner breaks, Eric would often teach them new games. My uncle continues, he was such a tender soul. If any of you were on Twitter at all, you probably heard the story of the Boulder stories and Boulder police officers a year or so back rescuing ducklings. Eric was one of those officers. My uncle continued, his energy was contagious. His love was exuberant. An amazing being that should not have been taken. And we know that there were 9 other victims who all have stories from people who loved them to share. But I wanted to honor Eric today, Officer Telley. But I also wanted to send my love to my uncle and his family who's mourning as well. Because when crimes like this happen, it's not just direct victims. It's friends, it's families, and it's communities that are impacted every single time this happens. And although I don't want to stand silent, I want to stand with you all in action in so many ways. I do want to give this body a moment of silence to think about not only the people we know, the people we don't know who are experiencing such loss today and unfortunately far too many other times in this world. So, Mr. Speaker, I would ask for a moment of silence, please.
A moment of silence is granted.
Thank you, members.
Thank you, Madam Majority Leader. I'm going to make quick committee announcements per the rules instead of having the chairs do it. The Health and Insurance Committee will be meeting upon adjournment to hear the following bills listed in the calendar: House Bill 1135, House Bill 1190, House Bill 1171, House Bill 1169. The Public and Behavioral Health and Human Services Committee will be meeting at 1:30 to hear the bills listed in the calendar: House Bill 1085, 1122, 1151, 1195, 1146, and 1119. The Transportation and Local Government Committee will be meeting this afternoon at 1:30 to hear the bills listed in the calendar: House Bill 1138, Senate Bill 70, House Bill 1115, House Bill 1024, and House Bill 1019. The Joint Budget Committee will be meeting as listed in the calendar, and the Judiciary Committee will not be meeting upon adjournment this morning, but will be meeting at 1:30 to hear the bills listed in the calendar, House Bill 1188, Senate Bill 78, and Senate Bill 73. Majority Leader Escar.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I move to lay over the balance of the calendar till tomorrow, March 24th.
Seeing no objection, the balance of the calendar will be laid over until Wednesday, March 24th. Madam Majority Leader.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I move that the House stand in recess until later today.
Seeing no objection, the House will stand in recess until later today.